Hello everyone, no intro today, just gonna get straight to the video because there's just too much bullshit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the face burqa, the dehumanizing symbol of submission to the new regime.
Yeah, face masks are a dehumanizing symbol of submission. Looks like you're putting a lot of effort in making yourself sound fancy, but not a lot of thought in the actual contents of your script. Unless, of course, you actually believe that. Why am I not surprised that computing forever would see something as simple as a protective measure to control the spread of COVID-19 as some sort of human controlling order?
If you refuse to wear it, you won't be allowed entry into certain places.
Face masks greatly reduce the chances of spreading the virus to other people. In certain places such as grocery stores or public transportation vehicles where people can be in very close proximity to each other, we can reduce transmission significantly if everyone wears a face mask. That's just simply how viruses that spread through respiratory droplets work. So of course certain places are going to require people to wear face masks. It's not like it infringes upon your well-being in any significant way. Computing forever disagrees with this, but we'll get to that later.
But it's all for your own good, just like when the time comes, you won't be allowed to do all manner of things or freely move around without proof of immunity or vaccination. It's do as we say or else.
It's not for your own good, it's for everyone else's. People are being required to wear regular masks, not the N95 ones. Regular masks protect you from spreading the virus to other people, but it's not really effective at protecting yourself. The idea is that if everyone is wearing the mask, then everyone is protected. You are protected from the fact that others are wearing the mask, so you have to also do your part and protect other people from you. It's not a controlling thing, it's not a power thing. I mean, what's next? Requiring people to wear clothing and not to be naked in public spaces is also some sort of do what we say or else?
It also has to be said that a mask that literally covers a person's mouth seems somewhat reflective of our time of censorship and restrictions on free speech, because it resembles a muzzle.
You're actually pathetic.
But there are those who have been speaking out about the usage of masks by healthy people. Dr. Dan Erickson has previously said the following.
When you wear gloves that transfer disease everywhere, those gloves have bacteria all over them. I'm wearing gloves, not helping you.
It's funny how you're playing a clip from Dr. Erickson when he was debunked by so many other scientists and healthcare providers. Maybe to regular people who know nothing about science, what he says may seem legit at first. I assume you're part of that category of knowing nothing about science since you're playing the clip in your video. But if you're a biologist like me, or if you've studied any sort of high school science, it's pretty easy to recognize a lot of the nonsense Dr. Erickson is spewing here. I'm not saying he's necessarily wrong on the biology, but he's not right either. Let's take this opportunity to debunk some of his claims.
This doesn't make any sense. We wear masks in an acute setting to protect us. We're not wearing masks. Why is that? Because we understand microbiology, we understand immunology, and we want strong immune systems. I don't want to hide in my home, develop a weak immune system, and then come out and get diseased.
Ah yes, so there's a huge saying going around where people believe that exposing yourself to more pathogens in general is going to strengthen your immune system in the long run, which would supposedly protect you from COVID-19. Now this isn't entirely false, but it's not true either. The idea is something like this, with variations of course. If you commonly expose yourself to pathogens, then your body will get better at fighting them. While this is true, if you're talking about the same pathogens, it's not necessarily the same when it comes to COVID-19, an entirely new virus no one has ever seen before. Our adaptive immune response is specific to what it fights, and their ability to eliminate pathogens the next time around is also specific to what it fought. That's how antibodies and memory cells work. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of it since it's pretty basic biology on how T and B cells work. Just because our immune system is accustomed to fighting one pathogen does not mean it's going to magically get better at fighting another. That is in general of the adaptive immune response, with the exception of closely related pathogen strains, which is not applicable here. Now, that being said, there's a study going on about how the MMR vaccine reduces COVID-19 symptoms. That's because the vaccine, in theory, promotes a higher activity of myeloid-derived suppressor cells, which are responsible for suppressing immune functions such as through the reduction of inflammation. Since a huge portion of COVID symptoms is a result of your own immune activity, this is an indirect symptom alleviator rather than being a direct fighting enhancement against new pathogens. In general, the adaptive immune response is where it's at. Ultimately, that's going to be the main protector you'll have against any sort of invasion. It's the reason why HIV is so potent, because of its ability to inhibit helper T cell function, and the adaptive immune response is specific to what you've seen before. Therefore, even if exposing yourself to a wide range of pathogens seems like an intuitive way to increase immunity, it's not going to do much, if anything, against novel viruses. Now, if your goal is to reduce autoimmunity, which very well does happen if you're not exposed to pathogens, then Dr. Erickson would be correct, but against COVID-19, absolutely not.
We have both been in the ER through swine flu and through bird flu. Did we shut down for those? Were they much less dangerous than COVID? Is the flu less dangerous than COVID? Let's look at the death rates. No, it's not. They're similar in prevalence and in death rate.
The severity of a disease is not only determined by the death rate. In fact, a higher death rate could very well mean less people die because it wouldn't be able to spread as far. That's why Ebola will never become a global pandemic. The only two types of diseases that really fit the category are coronaviruses and flus. That being said, comparing the seasonal flu with COVID-19 is not accurate. Comparing COVID to any existing pathogen is not accurate. The reason COVID is receiving so much attention is because we know nothing about it. At least we didn't know anything about it. By the time this video is uploaded, we already know quite a bit, but in the context of when Dr. Erickson made these statements, we knew nothing.
Dr. Buttar has given his opinion on the use of face masks.
Because as people are allowed to come back into society, their immune systems are already going to have been suppressed because of the wearing of the mask, which is going to increase cortisol levels. It's going to put people into a pseudo-hypoxic state. They're having to suck oxygen through a mask. It drives the cortisol levels up, which then creates a sympathetomimetic drive. It suppresses the lymphocyte subpopulation, decreases the immune system, and renders an individual more susceptible to any type of pathogen, whether it be bacteria, virus, spirochete, mycoplasma, yeast, parasite, whatever.
Increasing cortisol levels does negatively impact immune activity through the psychoneuroimmune system pathway. That part is correct. However, there is a huge leap of logic when claiming that wearing masks cause increased cortisol levels. First, you'd be assuming that masks give people anxiety, which realistically is a bad assumption. I don't know anyone who becomes anxious just because of a thin piece of fabric covering their mouths. Second, cortisol is the result of more long-term stressors, which is also simply not the case here. Short-term stressors would only induce things like increased epinephrine and norepinephrine levels, but even that would really only occur if the individual has trouble breathing, which would only really happen if they have a pre-existing breathing condition. So in conclusion, this is way too specific. It's not going to happen to 99% of people, and even if it does, it still won't happen.
So the face mask agenda seems to be, if you look at it from just a safety standpoint, it's highly suspect. If you look at it from a scientific perspective, the agenda is nefarious. The use of a face mask is designed to protect not the doctor or the nurse, but the patient, so that when a surgeon is operating and doing a bypass surgery or a herniorrhaphy or a joint replacement, that if the surgeon sneezes or coughs or drools or spits or whatever, you don't want to get the surgical field contaminated. You want to maintain that sterile field.
That depends entirely on what type of mask you're wearing. If you're wearing the standard surgical masks, then yes, doctors wear it to maintain a clean environment. But when they are seeing COVID patients, they wear N95 masks, which are designed to protect the healthcare workers. The masks required for people to wear in certain public places are regular surgical masks. They're not designed to protect you. They're designed to protect everyone else from you. And if everyone wears them, everyone is protected.
On top of that, we breathe out carbon dioxide. But when you've got a mask on, you're actually creating a decrease. You're creating actually an increase in respiratory drive because you get more carbon dioxide coming back from the face mask.
Yes, respiratory rate may increase, but it's not going to be an issue unless you have pre-existing breathing conditions.
It's like building a chain link fence to prevent a fly from getting into your house, or a split railed fence to keep mice out. The viral particles that we're trying to keep out of our bodies are so much smaller than the smallest pore of these masks.
This statement is so wrong and so misleading that Computing Forever should be absolutely ashamed for sharing this on his channel. First of all, yes, viruses are indeed smaller than the pores of the mask, but they don't have to be in order for the mask to stop their transmission. Now, for regular face masks, they hold in the respiratory droplets. Your sneeze or your cough can't get through them. COVID-19 rests on the respiratory droplets, which means they stick onto it. If the water from your coughing can't get out, neither can the virus. And that is certainly the case because water molecules are polar and adhere to the material of the mask and to each other. Second of all, if you're wearing an N95 mask, it does actually stop viruses, even ones that don't rest on water droplets. The virus is still smaller than the pores, but the mask actually uses a different property to stop them from passing through. It contains thin fibers, which actually rely on van der Waals forces. At the microscopic level, everything attracts each other because of van der Waals, so viruses stick right onto the microscopic fibers. Claiming that masks don't do anything because the viruses are smaller than the pores is completely misleading and dishonest.
Professor Dolores Cahill has said the following.
If people actually have the symptoms, they should wear a mask. But if you're like me, you had it, there is no need to wear a mask. But what a mask does, it's entirely the wrong thing.
Everyone should just wear a mask. If you're sick, wear a mask. If you're not sick, wear a mask. Because 1, you can transmit the disease even before showing symptoms, and 2, even people who have had the disease may not build up an immunity. It turns out that about 20 to 30% of people don't produce appropriate antibody levels. I'm actually working in 2 COVID-19 clinical trials, and our definition of acceptable antibody levels are only present in a fraction of of people who have recovered from the virus. There are also plenty of cases of people testing positive again even after recovering. Be responsible and wear a mask.
Professor Judy Mikovits has also said this.
Wearing the mask literally activates your own virus. You're getting sick from your own reactivated coronavirus expressions, and if it happens to be SARS-CoV-2, then you've got a big problem.
Computing Forever clearly doesn't understand even the most basics of science and biology if he's sharing all these clips from people who have been debunked over and over again by the medical community. In fact, I've even done a video myself on this documentary he's showing here. It's ridiculous how little fact-checking this guy can do and just pick out whatever source he can find that somehow supports his own narrative on Facemasks, and without fact-checking a single thing within it, post it to his channel to deceive tens of thousands of people watching the video. But then again, I'm not surprised. He does this for literally everything. I talked about his climate change videos before, which are arguably even more ridiculous than this one.
Certainly, the mandatory enforcement of masks is an infringement of individual human rights and bodily autonomy.
Oh yeah? What rights are you violating? What bodily harm are you causing? Please come forth and instead of presenting pseudoscience about how masks harm your body, try to, I don't know, actually educate yourself on physiology or fact check the things you post on your channel. Then come up with an argument that at least somewhat conforms with reality. Because so far your video here has been a big failure.
You have no right to go around publicly without a mask because you could get someone sick. If people still cannot see that this manufactured crisis is simply being used as an excuse to remove individual rights and freedoms and control people, then I honestly don't know how to help them.
If you're directly harming another human being, potentially killing them, that's not acceptable. Your right to do whatever the hell you want does not triumph over the lives of others.